The final rays of a deep prehistoric sun slide beneath the jagged horizon, and within a matter of minutes, the environment undergoes a transformation, so absolute that the modern mind can scarcely comprehend its weight because you are not looking at the gentle twilight of a suburban evening and you are not experiencing the minor inconvenience of a blown fuse or a dead smartphone battery. You are witnessing the total, suffocating descent of primeval night. In this world, darkness is not a passive absence of color, but a physical weight that resets the entire balance of power on the planet, rendering your eyes completely useless, and turning the open savanna into a sprawling, unseen labyrinth where your absolute survival depends entirely on things you cannot see, long before human beings built the very first locked door, long before we raised timber, roofs, or laid down soft mattresses. The setting of the sun meant entering a terrifying 12-hour exile from the top of the food chain, a daily reality where every single member of your group had to confront the exact same fundamental question. What do you actually do when the light dies? When your primary weapons are nothing but a sharpened stone and a collection of fragile hopes, and the apex predators of the landscape are just beginning to wake up hungry? We pass roughly 1/3 of our entire existence in the profound vulnerability of sleep, yet we rarely stop to consider that for 99% of the human chronicle, the architecture of the night was entirely different, a rich, mysterious, and beautifully complex arena of survival that modern civilization has completely wiped from our collective memory. To understand how our ancestors reclaimed this terrifying domain, we have to travel back to an era that predates the invention of modern comfort. A time when the primeval dark was occupied by an array of specialized carnivores, lions, leopards, hyenas, and massive saber-toothed cats. Creatures that biologists classify as crepuscular or nocturnal because their entire anatomical design is optimized to hunt during the twilight and the deep hours of the night. The moment the landscape went dark, early humans experienced a radical shift in status, transforming instantly from clever daytime hunters into slow, visual primates who represented a highly vulnerable meal for any predator possessing advanced night vision. The nightly forecast across the ancient world never varied. It was permanently dark, with a high probability of absolute danger, forcing our ancestors to develop behavioral strategies that relied on the geography of the Earth itself. They sought out high elevation, inaccessible cliff faces, and deep limestone caverns, recognizing that while a damp cave offered absolutely zero luxury or warmth, it provided a monumental tactical advantage, a singular, narrow entry point that effectively eliminated the threat of an ambush from the rear. Inside these stone sanctuaries, survival dictated absolute proximity, prompting entire bands to sleep, pressed tightly against one another, forming an organic wall of human bodies where individuals could feel the shifting breath of their companions, share vital metabolic heat, and establish a passive, collective security system. This organic clustering meant that the group never truly slept all at once, because within any large gathering of humans, there will always be a natural variation in sleep depth, ensuring that someone is always a lighter sleeper, someone is always stirring, and any subtle change in the ambient audio of the cave would instantly trigger an internal alarm that rippled through the entire sleeping pack without a single word ever being spoken. This fragile equilibrium was completely revolutionized roughly 400,000 years ago, an evolutionary turning point marked by the mastery of fire, a technology that did far more than simply cook meat or provide physical warmth through a freezing night. Fire allowed early humans to construct a psychological and physical perimeter against the wilderness, a brilliant ring of light that functioned as an absolute wall between the group and the surrounding terrors of the dark. Large predators did not avoid the fire because it presented an impassable physical barrier, but because their highly specialized hunting strategies were completely dependent on the cover of absolute darkness, meaning that an open, flickering flame represented an unpredictable, confusing disruption to their visual processing that they instinctively chose not to cross. By gathering around this brilliant hearth, our ancestors effectively engineered the very first scheduled, shared social space in human history, a reliable center of gravity that brought every member of the tribe back together at the conclusion of every single day. But the most profound transformation triggered by the campfire was not mechanical It was deeply cognitive, because sitting around a burning log in the dead of night offers absolutely no opportunity for practical physical productivity. You cannot effectively hunt, you cannot gather plants, and you cannot manufacture tools in the flickering shadows, leaving early humans with nothing to do but look at one another, converse, and be completely present in a way the frantic struggle of the daylight hours never permitted. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies, such as the Hadza of Tanzania or the Juhuansi of the Kalahari Desert, have documented a striking linguistic division between the sun and the stars, showing that daytime conversations are almost exclusively transactional, focusing on hunting logistics, resource locations, and daily labor. The moment the fire is lit at night, the entire nature of human speech undergoes a radical shift, transforming into an expansive, creative window dominated by elaborate storytelling, ancestral mythologies, and deep ethical discussions about what it means to be a trustworthy and courageous member of the tribe. For thousands of generations, the nightly fire functioned as the original cinema of the human species, compressing generational survival data, cultural history, and moral frameworks into unforgettable narratives that could be passed down across centuries without the aid of a single written word. Fire did not merely protect our bodies from the predators of the dark. It acted as the ultimate evolutionary forge for human language, empathy, and the complex social bonds that would eventually lay the foundation for global civilization. When we examine the actual architecture of ancient sleep, the findings are equally disruptive to our modern assumptions, because most people alive today believe that the natural, healthy baseline for human rest is a single, uninterrupted 8-hour block of unconsciousness. If you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and find yourself staring at the ceiling, the immediate modern instinct is to panic, to assume your biology is malfunctioning, and to search for medical symptoms online, yet historical. And scientific data suggests that this middle-of-the-night wakefulness is actually our natural default state. Meticulous historical research, combing through thousands of medieval diaries, court depositions, medical manuscripts, and classical poems has revealed that for the vast majority of recorded history, human sleep was explicitly biphasic, divided cleanly into two distinct intervals known as first sleep and second sleep. People would retire a few hours after the sun went down, sleep peacefully for 3 or 4 hours, and then naturally surface into a state of calm, clear-headed wakefulness around midnight. This waking window was not a stressful period of insomnia, but a routine, peaceful part of the night lasting 1 or 2 hours, during which individuals would tend the fire, check on livestock, pray, contemplate their dreams, or quietly visit neighbors down the street, before slipping back into a deep second sleep until dawn. The collapse of this ancient, two-part sleep rhythm was brought about almost entirely by the rapid spread of industrialization and artificial lighting, which pushed bedtimes later, compressed our total nightly rest, and forced the two natural phases of sleep to fold into a single, unnatural block. The biological reality of this forgotten rhythm was elegantly proven in the 1990s through a landmark scientific experiment where modern volunteers were completely stripped of artificial light for 14 hours a day, closely mimicking the natural light conditions of a pre-industrial winter. Within a matter of weeks, the participants' bodies spontaneously overrode their modern training, reorganizing their rest into two distinct blocks, separated by an hour of serene, clear-headed wakefulness in the middle of the night, proving that first and second sleep are not historical anomalies, but a deeply embedded genetic setting still waiting inside your modern body today. Long before the invention of the bed, our ancestors were also demonstrating a profound level of domestic engineering in how they constructed their sleeping areas, as evidenced by archaeological excavations at Border Cave in South Africa dating back an astonishing 200,000 years. Researchers discovered that ancient humans were systematically building elevated sleeping platforms out of carefully selected layers of broad-leafed grasses and vegetation. But the true stroke of prehistoric genius lay directly beneath the greenery, where they had intentionally spread a thick layer of wood ash harvested from their hearths. Ash acts as a highly effective, natural chemical deterrent against biting insects, ticks, fleas, and disease-carrying mites, providing clear proof that someone, 200,000 years ago, utilized the empirical scientific method to solve the very practical problem of parasitic infestation. In the frozen expanses of Ice Age Europe, this domestic ingenuity took on a thermodynamic scale because the drop in nighttime temperatures was routinely severe enough to kill an unprotected human within a matter of hours. To combat this lethal environment, Early human groups relied on communal nesting, pressing their bodies together into a singular, highly efficient insulation system that leveraged the pure laws of thermal physics to maximize ambient warmth and ensure that everyone survived until morning. As human culture continued to expand, the night ceased to be a terrifying void and transformed into the most spiritually and scientifically charged period of the entire daily cycle. A vast canvas where ancient civilizations mapped the very order of the cosmos. For countless early societies, the setting of the sun was a profound cosmic drama, where the solar deity descended into a perilous underworld to battle the forces of chaos, making every single sunrise a genuine, hard-won victory for the universe. The ancient Maya turned this intense celestial focus into a highly precise operational science, constructing complex calendar systems and architectural observatories designed explicitly to track the nightly movements of Venus, using the orbital path of a single planet to dictate major state decisions regarding warfare and diplomacy. Across the fertile plains of ancient Mesopotamia, an elite class of scholar priests spent their entire lives scanning the velvet expanse of the night sky, treating comets, lunar eclipses, and planetary alignments not as random cosmic background noise, but as vital intelligence data that had to be decoded to guide the agricultural and military strategies of the empire. This drive to read the dark hours manifested across the globe as a practical, highly sophisticated navigation asset, most brilliantly demonstrated by the legendary Polynesian voyagers who crossed the vast, featureless expanse of the Pacific Ocean without a single mechanical instrument, chart, or compass. Operating primarily at night, these master navigators steered their wooden outrigger canoes across thousands of miles of open water by relying on a completely memorized map of hundreds of individual stars, tracking their rising and setting positions across different latitudes and seasons. They integrated this stellar intelligence with a profound physical reading of the ocean itself, feeling the subtle, distinct wave patterns produced by deep underlying currents directly through the wooden hull of their vessel, tracking the evening flight paths of oceanic birds heading toward land, and reading the unique coloration of clouds that gather over hidden islands long before the shore ever rises above the horizon. The deeper you look into the historical record, the more you realize that the ancient world was absolutely full of practical night work, an entire shadow economy that utilized the unique properties of darkness to achieve things that were completely impossible during the day. In the Iron Age communities of southern Africa, master metallurgists deliberately chose to fire their iron-producing forges exclusively after dark, because the blinding glare of the daytime sun completely washes out the incredibly subtle color transitions of heated ore, subtle shifts from dull red to brilliant orange that indicate the precise temperature required to work the metal correctly. Along the banks of the Indus River Valley, one of the world's earliest urban civilizations maintained a highly organized nocturnal sanitation shift, deploying workers to clear municipal waste under the cover of night to keep the city functional for the following day. In the arid regions of the Arabian Peninsula, ancient agriculturalists systematically irrigated their parched crops only after the sun had fully set, executing a brilliant water conservation strategy that significantly reduced moisture loss to evaporation. Far to the north, Norse communities turned the long, dark nights of the Scandinavian winter into an opportunity for industry, burning massive quantities of whale fat and seal oil in specialized stone lamps to illuminate their longhouses, refusing to surrender their social lives to the darkness, and instead building a whole indoor culture around outlasting the northern night. Even hunting itself was frequently optimized for the dark hours, with multiple traditional societies in blistering desert environments choosing to track and pursue fast game animals exclusively by the light of a full moon, intentionally leveraging the cool night air to prevent both the hunter and the prey from collapsing from heat exhaustion. When we bring all of these sweeping historical fragments together, the conventional, modern picture of prehistory completely shatters, replacing the old trope of frightened, primitive cavemen huddling in the shadows in a state of constant terror with a far more accurate, inspiring reality. The night was not an empty gap in the human story. It was not a passive waiting room for the dawn. It was the very space where humanity first learned to narrate the world through myth, where our bodies operated in beautifully synchronized, natural phases of rest, and where our ancestors engineered brilliant solutions out of ash, stone, and fire. It was the dark that forced us to memorize the stars, to feel the deep currents of the sea, and to turn the absence of daylight into a precision instrument for metallurgy, navigation, and community bonding. We have willingly traded that vast, starry world away for the undeniable safety and immense convenience of the electric grid, a bargain that brings us clean running water, modern medicine, and instant global communication. But it is worth recognizing that in flattening the boundary between day and night, we have isolated ourselves from the ancient, natural rhythms of our own bodies. So, the next time you find yourself awake in the quiet, velvet hours of the deep night, resist the sudden urge to reach for your phone. Resist the modern anxiety that tells you your sleep is broken, and simply lie there in the peaceful darkness for a while. Let your mind drift through your thoughts. Listen to the absolute stillness of the world around you, and experience the night exactly as your ancestors did for thousands of generations before you. You are not experiencing a medical malfunction, and you are not broken. Your body is simply remembering a beautiful, primeval rhythm that it was never supposed to forget.